I've started the recording.
You have.
Yes.
Kaylee? Who else is on besides Kaylee and Peter?
That's it.
Just
That's
us.
My only question of you, Kaylee, as you get these purses and scarves and so forth, do you think you'll be able to wear them as elegantly as your grandma did? She was one very elegant woman.
I want to say yes, but I don't know. I don't like to fill people's shoes. I feel like Grandma was one of a kind.
She was indeed one of a kind. She was a superb woman, very, very elegant in the way she dressed and the way she comported herself.
Yeah, so I don't want to say yes and steer you in the wrong. I will very much try.
Oh, that would be all I could ask. That would be all I could ask.
And I feel like I got the purse, and I wanted everyone to pick before me, but like I feel like I got the purse that fits, that reminds me of her and makes me feel like it's me too. So I'm very excited.
Good. Where do you want to start tonight, Peter?
Well, I believe you said you wanted to start talking about, what was it? Grandma's side?
What?
What was the topic you wanted to do? You had something at the end of yesterday.
Oh, we could talk about Grandma's side. That's true. We introduced you to the family that went to Wilmer. Well, Grandma had was married to a man named Ole Helberg. But I should tell you that she came from a family of a very rich landowner in Muckfjord, Sweden. Her father was a very authoritarian person. He had high expectations for all of his children. And I should have looked up the number of children he had, but I think it was about 15. He had a large family, and he had high expectations for them. My grandmother's name was Betsy, and she was one of the older children in the family. So as soon as she became of age, she went out to work on a local farm. I'm not sure what the housemaids did on the farm, but her job was there on the farm. Anyway, she worked for quite some years doing that, but she had a boyfriend, and his name was Ole Helberg. I should say the name Helberg is a fictitious name, because when his parents, Isaac and Anna, chose to leave Sweden, and the conditions under which they left were rather interesting by themselves. Anyway, when they decided to leave, they needed a name, and they decided to use the words Helberg, which means farm on the hillside. And that's a very loose translation of the, but they made up that name to carry with them. Anna and Isaac, my great grandparents, came to, decided to leave Sweden in about the 1880s or so, because my great-grandmother, that's not her, my great-grandmother was called a witch in the community. It's quite possible, and I'm still researching this, I haven't gotten the complete information, but it's quite possible that she was involved in some of the early religious revivals that were going on. Across Sweden, there was a tremendous revivalistic movement that occurred in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, and continued into the 70s and 80s. And she was very much persecuted. But it was partly that reason that she and her husband, Isaac, decided to take their two children, Ole and
Peter.
Ole and Peter, and come to America. Ole and Peter were very young. Well, they were not terribly young. They were teenagers at the time, and they packed up and came to America. But by that time, Ole had become very friendly with Brita, and so for a number of years, 3 or 4 years, they continued correspondence across the ocean, even though Ole had come to America and essentially settled in. By the way, they came to Wilmer first, Wilmer, Minnesota, and then settled up in Richland County, Richland, Ransom, and Sargent County in North Dakota. Ole's parents, Isaac and Anna, established a farm, and Ole was buried on the farm after he died. Anna lived along there, and she's one of the first residents in the cemetery that we'll be looking at in Freeman Cemetery in Richland County. That's Grandma Anna Helberg. She was buried there. Anyway, the reason that Brita then came by herself to America, she earned enough money in this job that she had to get passage across the ocean, and came to find her boyfriend, Ole Helberg. And she found him, and they married and lived in McLeod. We'll see the farmstead that they settled on when we go out to North Dakota in July. Anyway, Betsy's father was so upset with her taking off and going across the ocean by herself that he hired a local, a cousin of his, a local jeweler, to follow her across the sea and find her and bring her home and marry her. This cousin did that, and I've seen the diary that he made of his trip across the ocean and coming all the way across America to the Midwest, and he found Brita, Betsy, and Ole married, and he was so discouraged that he just turned around and left and went back to Muckfjord, and himself never married, and reported to Betsy's parents. Now, this picture that's on the thing is is Betsy's parents. Um, Forgotten her name, but he,
It just says Grandpa and Grandma in Sweden.
yeah, okay.
No one.
But his name was Hogsved. And he lived to about 1908 in there someplace. And Betsy never went back to Sweden. She had come in the 1880s, started a family with Ole. They had 9 children, I guess. And she started a family with Ole and never went back to Sweden until she got word that her father had died. And then she went back to see her mother. So it's kind of a tragic tale in a way, that they were good friends, but they well, they were not good friends. They were it was just tragic. Anyway,
Okay,
Betsy had a large family,
there's Betsy.
and there's a picture of Betsy in her later years. Let me just show the picture of the kids. This is her family. There's
Minnie.
Betsy first, and Ole, and then there's Minnie, that Carrie and Amy both know.
Melissa.
The Louisa, who died when she was a teenager. Who's the next one?
Ida.
Ida, that's my mother. That's your grandmother, your great grandmother. And
Vic.
Victor is another one. Another of her brothers. And I know him well.
This is Grandma Helberg.
Oh yeah, Grandma Helberg. That's Isaac's mother. And who else is on
Let's
there?
see. I can't read.
Oscar must be there.
This must be Oscar.
And Carl.
Carl is the baby.
Yeah, he was the baby. Oh, the twins, were they?
They're not on there yet.
Oh, well then Carl.
Minnie, Louisa, Grandma Helberg, and Tilly. The baby is Tilly.
Yeah. So that was.
And so Oscar and Tilly, this is before Carl.
Yeah. Before Carl.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the Helberg family. And of those, you will be able to see the graves of Anna, Grandma, and Betsy. She was out there. Ida, of course.
No.
And Carl and Victor and Oscar. Let's see, what else was I going to tell about that?
Here are most of them when they grew up. That's Uncle Carl, Great Aunt Tilly, Uncle Oscar, who married Gertrude Erickson, Oscar Erickson's sister. Ida, our grandmother, who married Oscar Erickson. This is Vic, and this is Aunt Minnie.
Anyway, I knew all of those people, of course, and they were dear friends of ours. They lived in the same community as we did. Isn't my mother good looking?
His mother is beautiful.
Beautiful.
She is beautiful.
How old do you think she was in that picture?
In this picture, she was probably in her 40s.
This is her in profile here.
Isn't that a great profile picture?
Wow.
Who else was in that picture? The one with her in profile.
We think it was the mother and the little girl that she nannied for.
Ah.
See what you show the other pictures.
This is definitely her in 1920.
This will be 10 years before she was married and before I was born. Show the other one of Ida. There.
How many siblings? This is silly to ask, but I don't know. How many siblings did you have, Grandpa and Grandma?
I had no siblings. I was the only child.
He had a twin who was a stillbirth.
That's right.
Okay.
And his grave, baby Erickson, is at the Freeman Cemetery, where we'll go this summer.
That's true. I should say that. I did have a sibling, but he died in childbirth. And that's my mother in
the plaid is Ida,
the dress.
and the white dress is her sister Tilly. And Tilly married very late in life, but she made several trips back to Sweden, and we have a lot of her pictures. And she moved out to Seattle, and she ran a boarding house out there. And eventually that's where she met her husband, who was a fisherman.
And very late in life is
50s, I think she
oh, okay. So it was very late in life. Okay.
yeah, I think she passed away within 10 years.
She passed away in 1962.
Yeah, the year I was born. This is another early picture of Ida.
Isn't that a great picture?
This is Minnie and Ole Anderson and Ida. Minnie, when she was 16, she told me the story that she worked on the railroad, and she waited tables for the men who were building the railroads.
1943. So, Grandpa, you would have been 18.
1943. He would have been 13 in 1943.
13.
Oh,
19.
What happened in 43?
No, that's just what the picture was from. 1943.
Oh yeah, he was 13. Let's see.
Oh yeah, 1930, not 1925.
Anyway, we should tell one other part of this. I said there were two brothers that came with Isaac and Anna to America. Ole was one and Peter was the other. Ole lived in McLeod, and as I said, we'll see his farmstead when we go back there. But Peter moved down to Rutland, and he had a large family down there. The only one that we have a photograph of is his daughter Helga, and there she is, a very stylish woman. So she was born in 1893, which was my mother's birth year was 1894. So they were just 1 year apart in age. And as cousins, they grew up in towns about 40 miles apart. So I'm sure they knew one another. Then eventually she married and went back to Wilmer, Minnesota, and her grave is in Wilmer. So I haven't seen it. I'm hoping on this trip to see Hilda's grave, because I'd like to. I've been trying to get her descendants to send me a picture of her in her later life, but I haven't been able to get anybody to answer him yet. So I don't know.
Coming down here because I think that yesterday, yep.
That's me.
This is another picture of Ida, so you can see how close she looked to Hilda.
We figure she was probably about 18 years old on this picture.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! The cutest photo ever.
That's you.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
I was a cute little kid.
He was. Okay, back to Erickson Flatabo. Okay. You want to go to Oscar Erickson? Or what do you want to?
See, I told you about Oscar Erickson going into World War I and being captured by the Germans, didn't I?
I think so, but if you wanted to say it again, you can.
Okay, this is 1917, and that's a picture from Germany. And it's one that was in my dad's collection, so I presume it's a picture of either of the prison where he was held and captured, or at least in the town that he was at. Get a picture of Grandpa.
This,
Yeah, there's a picture of Grandpa.
he's the one right in the middle.
The middle one. That was to be in 1917, 18, just before he went into the war. He and Grandma married in 1929, so that, let's see, he was 29, 39. He was 40 years old when he got married, and she was 36, I guess, when she was married. The next family picture we have is this one. I was 11 in that picture.
So good.
But we have this one.
Well, there was one with my grandmother.
Oh wow, that looked just like my dad for a second.
That's my father's mother.
Ingeborg Flatabo Erickson.
Taken in 1939. That was a year.
36.
It was a year before she. 36. So it's maybe 4 years before she died.
Let's see. We have some of Grandpa when he was younger.
There's me and Skeeter, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. There's Dad and Skeeter.
There's Grandpa and Skeeter. The hero was 15, I think.
Yep. 1945. He's easy to figure out because his birthday is 1930. I think she's expecting somebody. That's Oscar and Ida. And I think she's expecting.
She's going to have twins.
She's going to have twins. That little lady.
How old was she when she passed away?
78 or 79.
I'm going to go back up to some of those.
And what about your dad?
He was 90.
Oh, wow.
He was the age that I am now. He was a neat guy.
He really was.
He really was. I should tell you a bit about him. He was regarded as the best farmer in the entire community, and people would come and ask him for advice and so forth. And he ran for various offices. He was president of the local school board. He was chairman of the township board. He was head of the nonpartisan league political party. And he had all sorts of other assignments. He was the leader of the 4-H club that he helped organize in 1939, and he was just a all-around fellow, very highly respected. Had a great farm, good cattle that he sold all across the country because they were purebred milking shorthorns. Is that my mother?
That's your mother and you.
My mother and me. I must be awfully young.
You must be about 18 months to 2.
Wow.
If you were to say like one or two hobbies that he was into, like what he enjoyed, what would they be from your dad?
I don't know that the hobbies is a funny word because he was just involved in so many organizations that took all of his time. Well, okay, no. There's a hobby. Selecting corn cobs. Each of those trays represent 12 ears of corn that each of the persons that showed them had selected and showed as their top quality corn. My dad showed corn in all the local fairs and so forth that were around, and he always got blue ribbons for them because he made good selections. He sent one tray like that, tray of 10 ears, to the U.S. corn show in Chicago in 1910 or something like that. Anyway, he won second prize in the national competition, which was pretty darn good for a farmer from North Dakota to have selected top quality corn and sent it off that way. Anyway, this is he and one of his friends from Delmar. This is a friend from Delmar, and they were in competition with one another for selecting corn that they would show in various locations, and they both won a lot of blue ribbons.
Wow.
Which is the top class of women.
This is Oscar. The interesting thing is I can say I grew up in a house that had one of those trays of corn prominently displayed in my father's study.
That's true.
It's now in the museum in McLeod.
When you go to the museum this summer, you'll see that selection of corn that was sent to Chicago.
Oh shoot, I always click the wrong one.
he did the same with cattle. He showed cattle all over the region, and invariably won high quality, uh, high grades from his cattle. I did the same. I raised cattle when I started 11 or 12 years old, and raised them until I was 20. And I show them all over the place too. And usually won first place because we had good stock to show, good cattle, and Dad had trained me well as to how to do the show and how to display them.
Did your mom work, or was she more of a stay-at-home mom?
No, she was the stay-at-home mom, but she did lots of things with women in the community. She was the only woman, I think, in the area that had a quilt frame, and so she set it up to quilt. So in this quilt frame, sew quilts all year winter long, and she'd invite various ones of her friends to come over and spend an afternoon quilting with her on this quilt frame. And so she must have made dozens of quilts, I know, and was active. The other thing, she was active in the Ladies' Aid, and the Ladies' Aid did all sorts of meals and community events. We had a lutefisk dinner multiple times during the year, and she'd help with that. So she was very active in community life. Oh, she was part of the Home Demonstration Club too. I recall that. That was a women's organization sponsored by USDA.
I'm joining back into junior league this year, so this makes me excited.
Yeah, right.
This is one of my favorite photos of Dad when he was about 5. He's on skis, and on the back is my favorite part. Grandma wrote, "My little ragamuffin." Okay, let's see. Oh, and now we have pictures of the cows. Oh, okay, there.
There's one of my cows. I must have been 15, 16 years old when this was shown.
Oh, there are all 3 of you. Grandpa with the bull, Grandma with the big cow, and Dad with his calf.
Wow.
Okay.
There's that elegant lady I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And one on the hood of the car is Uncle Kenyon, which means the one standing on the bumper is Steve.
He's so freaking cute.
Yeah. Let's see, do we have more? Here's an older elegant.
That's my dad, my mother, and me.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when you met Grandma Ann?
You were.
What?
How old were you when you met Grandma Ann? You got married at 22.
Yeah, it was 1951. So I was 31. Wasn't
That would be
it? 51.
51, 31.
Yeah.
Fall of
But
51,
no, so you were 21.
21.
21.
Yeah.
Right. I was 21 when I met Grandma, and she was 19.
Actually, you would have been 20
Yeah.
because you would have met her before your birthday.
Before my birthday, so I was 20.
I think that this is Ingeborg and Dad. I'm not sure who this is. Alec. Oh, wow.
My grandparents.
So here he is with both of his grandparents. Lots of family reunions.
Now, Grandpa, you were the only child, but in terms of siblings, like your parents' siblings, did you have a lot of cousins?
37 cousins.
37?
You just blew her mind. Let me see. There he is with a handful of them. This is Ida.
Did I hear that right? 37? Or did I mean?
You heard that right.
Like, oh my goodness.
My aunts and uncles had big families. I'll tell you that is. Here's another interesting factoid. Of these 37 cousins, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of us are still alive. And
Wow. That's
and I'm the patriarch of the cousins these days. My cousin Edvin, who you'll meet in North Dakota, called me one day and he said, "Gene, you're the oldest of all the cousins left." So there I am, the patriarch of the cousins.
You're the oldest in pictures too.
37. I thought we had a big family. What are we at? 12?
Well,
Natalie's mom doesn't know. Like, I don't think we know how many Natalie's cousins Natalie's mom has directly, because her dad, I believe, had 9 or 10 siblings himself, and I think the number of cousins was at least 37, if not more.
Wow.
okay, let me find. Where's the Flatterville picture?
It isn't hard to add up to a few. We have a few large families.
Okay.
I think I have 5 on my mom's side.
Let's see, how many cousins do you have now?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Erica, yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You have 9.
9. Yeah, so 9 on my dad's side, and then
It's more than that.
No, you have 13.
She has 9 cousins though, because she has
Right.
most of the siblings.
unless you include us, yeah,
Oh, that's true.
if you include like my family members, and there's 13. But yeah, on my mom's side, I mean, I don't even know about my
How many on your mom's side?
5. I mean, the only 5 that I know. My mom's dad, I mean, my mom's brothers, I don't know if she's like in communication with them. So I don't know if they have kids or not. But my Aunt Darla and my Aunt Karen are the only ones that I've ever known my entire life. So that's only 5.
Okay, so this is the Flatterville family, Kaylee. And this is the one time that all the children were together. This is Ingeborg, Dad's grandmother.
My grandmother is there.
So she's right here.
And that's her brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, each of those had families of probably 10 to 15.
Well, no, because remember,
Well,
Bertha didn't
Bertha didn't have any.
have any.
Molly and Nettie had smaller families too,
Hmm.
but none of the rest did.
This is the family of Ingeborg's husband, Alec, Dad's grandfather. And that's him here. This is his siblings, and well, not all of his siblings, and then some of their children.
And spouses.
And there's a couple of spouses. No, I think there's only one spouse in there.
Tweedle?
Tweedle's the only spouse. So all of these are all kids. And then this is Gertrude Andresen Erickson and Osbjorn or Oscar Erickson.
Well, that's the one that I have the golden, I had a cane for.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see their graves in Wilmer, because they were buried in Wilmer.
And then, let's see. Then we want to go to the Helberg family. Well, you saw the pictures of the Helbergs earlier and how many kids they had.
That was just Ole, though.
That was just Ole Helberg.
We don't have Peter's collection because Peter had about 9 kids too.
Right. Where am I looking? Oscar and Gertrude. Oscar Helberg and Gertrude Erickson Helberg had about 9 kids. And here they are with some of them. And these all show up as almost as siblings to Dad because they're double cousins.
What do you mean?
A mom and a dad from both grandparents.
The mother of the family was my dad's sister, and the father was my mother's brother.
Oh, crazy.
So they become double cousins. And Kelly tells me that means our DNA is going to be closer. But all of those cousins are dead now.
Yeah. There's Minnie, Dad's cousin Elaine, Gertrude's daughter, Gertrude, Dad, Oscar, Leona, Ida, and Carl.
I've seen in some of these pictures that Oscar has crutches. Why was that?
His knees were giving out in his 80s. He was already getting older by that time, and his knees were giving up.
Oscar had a stroke 1962?
1963.
In 1963 that today they could have given him speech therapy and he would have been able to speak. But at the time they didn't realize that all he needed was speech therapy. And so when I grew up, in my early years, he could only say, I suppose. And then as I got older, he learned how to say our names and he learned a few other things. But the words were there, he just couldn't form them.
That's Oscar and Ida there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see Oscar and Ida's grave in the cemetery too. Anne's and my graves are going to be right next to theirs.
Mm-hmm. We've got a picture of a horse here, or I guess more of a pony.
So grandpa passed away, or great grandpa passed away. What year?
You mean my father?
Yes.
My father died in 1979.
Okay.
He was 90 years old.
That's Oscar with Ken and Steve on a pony.
'24. My dad was 24.
That's Mom and Steve and Ken. Back when Steve was still in a high chair.
Mom and Steve and Ken.
And she was preparing meals. This is September of 57. They were getting ready to move to
57. We were back from Pakistan.
57.
Oh, 57. We're not.
You were getting ready to move to Lansing, Michigan. And so Mom is packing up lunches to put in the car and take with them.
No, we went in 1961 to Lansing. Oh, to Lansing? Oh, you're right. We were in the Army.
Before this. There's a cool shot. Oscar and Steve and Ken and Eugene.
There's that elegant lady again. She was.
It's good. I mean, so your dad married older too.
Well,
so.
My mother was older too. She was 36 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was 35.
These are all of Ida right here.
These are Ida on her 70th birthday. They had a 70th birthday party for her.
She was a pretty lady.
She very much was. A classy lady. This is the year she married. They got married in December. Dad, did they get married in December?
Yeah.
This is September of 1929. And she got married in December of that year to Oscar.
I've seen this photo.
Which one do you want to see?
Show that one.
The hat you don't like? But she's got her smile, and that's why I love this picture. Is the hat protects her, lets her look up and smile, and I love that. That's Oscar at the first home they moved into. First apartment. So Oscar Erickson taken by our room in the northwest wing of Sergeant Manor, Foreman, North Dakota.
Oh yeah.
So eventually they left the farm. Is that right?
Yes. Dad had a stroke in 1963, and they moved into Sergeant Manor, a retirement home in Foreman, North Dakota. And essentially he lived there for the rest of his life, from 63 until he died in 79.
So they never left North Dakota.
Well, he left North Dakota to go to Germany.
That's when he was in the military.
Yeah. Well, that's Dad. Dad was president of the school board, and he's dishing out ice cream.
This looks like you. Mm-hmm. I didn't really. This is Eugene, Dad. I think this is Roland.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had a cousin Roland in the collection. That was my dad and a cousin of his, Alma Tweedo. No, that's not Alma. Forgot her name, but she was a Tweedo, and that's her husband. That would be Dad's father's sister's kids.
There's Oscar and Ida and Eugene in a double-breasted suit.
Double-breasted, yeah.
Eugene and Ida near an Airstream camper. That's you and Grandpa and Grandma.
Oh, there's one of my cows.
Boy, that looks like Oscar.
Oh, there's a cocker spaniel, or it looks like one at least.
That is.
It looks like Oscar. That's what's so strange. Oscar Erickson and Mabel Tweedo.
Oh.
So it is Oscar.
Mabel Tweedo was his cousin.
So was the other woman Mabel? That
Right.
was taken about 1912.
So he would have been 10, 11, 12. No, it couldn't be because he was only 12 years old.
Yeah, that can't
13 years old. So it can't be.
What year was he born?
89.
1889.
He made both of these canes.
18. Well, then he would
No,
have
he
been.
could have been 12. He would
could
have
have
been
been,
20
yeah.
something.
Because he'd be 20.
Say that again.
22, 23.
Yes. He would have been about 23 years old in that other picture with his cousin.
30.
No.
Oh, no, you're right. He'd be 23. Go back to it.
Okay. Okay, I'll go up a little.
That'd be 23, so you're right.
And notice the dark hair. This story that I've heard from one of the cousins is that when he was captured in World War I, or before, during World War I, he went gray overnight.
Wow.
So when he came back from the war, he had gray hair.
So you're right. He was 23 at this picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's entirely possible.
Okay.
too bad the pictures aren't better.
Or organized better.
Grandpa, they're from 1912. They're perfect.
I'm looking for a specific picture.
For what?
I'm looking for a specific picture. This one. This is Oscar Erickson with a trombone. The funny thing is, until Dad saw this picture, he never knew his dad played the trombone.
Honestly, I had no connection with the trombone to him at all.
And that's probably the one-room schoolhouse he went to.
I'm very likely.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, how was your school experience? What was that like?
Actually, it was very good because for some reason I didn't participate in sports very much. In fact, at all. And so what I did was, I was with the teachers. I was kind of the teacher's pet, I suppose, in a way. I learned to sing, and I would sing with the teachers and help them leading songs.
Teacher's pet. Tell about artists in second grade.
Well, that's true. I was sitting behind, your mom reminded me, I was sitting behind Artist Sagwald, who you'll also meet in North Dakota, because she's coming to the affair, and she was 3 months older than I. But so we grew up together and we're good friends. And I was seated in the seat behind her when she was in either second or third grade, and her mom fixed her hair in long curls. I mean, long curls. They were this long, and then they were circled around her head. She must have had 10 or 12 of those curls around her head. Anyway, for some reason, I was sitting behind her, and I reached up and took one of the curls and snipped it off. So she was there without a curl.
Oh.
I don't remember that she got upset, but the teacher sure did. And my mother was furious when she found out about it. Oh dear.
There was another time you got in trouble, and your dad knew before you got home. You got sent down to the basement.
That's true. I got a licking from the teacher. That was in 6th grade. We had a man teacher, the first male teacher I'd ever had. Anyway, his name was Mr. Hall. And he had a short fuse for the antics of kids in his room. And he said, "I don't want anyone to leave their seats. No one should leave their seats." And across the aisle from me was my cousin Royce, who I disliked very much. He was older than I, and I was afraid of him. And he motioned for me to come across the aisle to him. And I did. And Mr. Hall came roaring down the aisle, grabbed me by the back of my neck, hauled me out of the room, down into the basement, where he gathered 10 or 12 willow switches and had me hold them, and then and then he whipped me over and over again, and then hauled me back up and said to the class, no, none of the rest of you do this, or you'll get the same thing. I'll tell you, there was hush, quiet in the room. Well, anyway, I went home from school that day, and I happened to walk downtown because my dad was in town. I knew he was there. And I went up to my dad and I said, Dad, I got a whipping in school today. And his only question was, what did you do to deserve that? And now that's a, a, a mile from what teachers would do today. I mean, parents would do. They go storming into the school and berate the teachers and everything else for whipping their kids.
Yeah.
Not my dad. What did you deserve? He was president of the school board too, so presumably he could have been very upset, but he wasn't. Anyway.
But the interesting thing was he didn't punish you anymore.
No, he didn't.
Did you do anything else to deserve anything else?
Later on, the next teacher, the next year I had a woman teacher. What was her name? I'll remember it because it's etched in my mind there somewhere. Anyway, a group of us were out playing ball in a pasture some distance from the school, like a couple of pastures away. And she warned us, when I ring the bell, I want you to come. First bell is the warning. The second bell, you get a whipping. And I guess a group of us were kind of slow at getting back to him. And she met us at the door, and she took one of those pointers that you have for a geography class that are about 6 feet long, that have a wide base, and then it narrows down to a point so that you can point at things on the geography map. Anyway, she took the wide part, not the narrow part, but the wide part, and we each held out our hand, and she would crack right across the top of the wrist. And I had 2 welts on my hand for a long time after that, because it caused the hand to swell. Anyway, it was a lesson.
What was your favorite what was one of your activities that you did that wasn't, that you liked but other people didn't? Think of the railroad tracks.
I wouldn't say that the other people didn't like it. My friend Donnie Hawkinson and I, he lived on a farm a couple of miles away from ours, and he would ride his horse over to my place, and we'd go hunting, doing various things. And one day we rode out to the railway track, and we lined up a bunch of stones on each track. And he was on one track and I was on the other, and we were eyeing them, trying to get the 2 pyramids that we were making. First a very small stone, and then a larger and larger and larger, until we got to the tallest, the biggest stone we could get, and then we went down the other side of the pyramid. And so we made this pyramid of probably 10 stones long. And then he was on one track and I was on the other. And we were surveying our work, and we liked what we'd done. Then we thought of something else to do, so we left. and we were riding off into the hillside. And as we were standing on top of one hill, um, I was on a white horse, he was on a black, and we heard the speeder came by. The speeder is a fast little contraption that the the crew used to ride out to fix the rails. And the speeder was coming back, and we knew that they were late for lunch because we could hear them coming very fast. Anyway, the speeder went up, and we hit these stones. And Dolly and I looked at one another and said, "We forgot the stones on the track." And the speeder went up, and it flew in the air. It went up over the pyramid, flew in the air, and luckily for us, it came down on the track, because our pyramids had been so perfectly aligned that it didn't tip or anything else. It just went sailing straight ahead and perfectly aligned. And they stopped the speeder. They shook their fists at us. We were probably a quarter of a mile away.
Would this happen to be what that looked like? Something like this?
What?
Would this happen to be what it might have looked like?
Yes, it's kind of like that. Only I think it was about like that. Very, very similar, except it didn't have a roof, a cab on it. It would open.
Be more like this?
Yes, more like that.
Only it didn't have a pump to it.
Yeah, it didn't have a pump. It had a gasoline engine.
Oh, that's funny.
Maybe like the one on the left here.
Yeah, the one on the left.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more like that. But there was room for 4 men to sit on it.
Wow.
So 4 men sat on the thing. And then, anyway, that was that day. The next day, the next morning, I went in to the depot with my dad, who carried the milk to the train. And the depot agent, his name was Mr. Radcliffe, Russell R. Radcliffe. Anyway, he shook his fist at me and he said, "Boy, you do hell, I'll send you to the reform school." He was quite furious, and he was, I don't know what my dad did to calm him down, but he kind of calmed down a little bit, and didn't send me to the reform school.
That's
But
funny.
you planted a couple of pennies on the track too.
Oh, not a couple, many pennies. Yeah.
Oh,
There's still some floating around our family, I'm sure.
You know, you could do that this summer. Oh, no, you'd have to get to the railway track.
It's right there.
Well, yeah, but the train schedules are erratic now.
Well,
have you thought about everything that you want to do when you get over there in North Dakota?
Well, I've been to all these places, so my interest is in showing, reintroducing all of you to as many places as you're interested in. I want to get down to Wilmer because I want to see if we can find the grave of this lady that Hilda was my mom's friend. I've never seen that. I've seen all the other graves, so the only interest of there is yours. I'd like to share you all Grafton, where Mom, your grandmother grew up. Show you the house where she lived, the school she attended, the church she went to.
And where you were married.
and where we were married too. Yeah, that's true. I'd like to show you those things. That's about it.
Inkster.
Well, the interest in the Inksters, I've been there.
I have to.
The interest in Inkster is that my mom's grandmother is buried there, and her grandfather too, for that matter. Well, she didn't know her grandfather. Well, what would you like to do?
Me?
Yeah.
See everybody. Spend time with you.
Well, you'll meet a lot of cousins.
I mean, if you had 37, I mean.
Look, my cousins that are left there have kids with kids that have kids. So they won't be first cousins. They'll be second cousin, third cousin, fourth cousins. But they'll be. Oh, that's
so pretty.
That's an elegant lady.
Great photo.
Oh,
That's,
She carried a Bible that day.
I guess that's her parents.
yes.
Dorothea and HB. And we always joke, I don't think any of us knew HB with a smile on his face. And so every once in a while we'll find a picture where he's got this little grin and we go, oh, he's smiling.
This is Anne's grandmother. She's the one who's buried in Inkster.
And this is, yeah.
Oh,
Keep going, keep going. You'll find more, keep going.
oh, there's my mom and dad, Anne's mom and dad, Anne and me. Isn't she an elegant lady?
Yes.
I'm gonna go the other direction.
You've been that direction.
No, you haven't.
Oh,
This is during the ceremony.
that's during the ceremony. Oh, that's before the ceremony.
Mhm.
That's her good friend Jamie. With luck, we'll meet Jamie when we go up to Grafton because she's still alive.
Mom made her dress, right?
Yes, she sure did. Oh, what an elegant lady. What a magnificent lady. That's leaving the church. That's Anne's sister Dorothea and her brother Peter throwing rice at us. We found rice in our clothing and our baggage for the next 2 weeks. That's the Bible that Anne carried.
That's Russ and Norma Jean Wigfield and Dad and Mom. He is the minister who married them.
That's my best friend, best man, and this is the maid of honor,
Who was your best man?
Randy Ng,
Okay, yeah, Dot's husband.
Dot's husband.
I knew that.
Isn't she an elegant lady?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wait, no, leave it there. You have to go back and let them see the invitation. Yep, that's it. Mr. and Mrs. Helmer B. Ensrud request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Anne Marie to Mr. Eugene Curtis Erickson on Saturday afternoon, the 20th of June at 4 o'clock, Federated Church, Grafton, North Dakota.
Oh wow, that's on Monday.
Sunday.
Oh, it's on Sunday.
This year it happens to fall on Father's Day also. to go up here and hit the X. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of the story.
And for today?
Yep.
All right.